Hello everybody and welcome back to All the Mods 10. In the previous episode we got started with the Forbidden and Arcanist mod, and we built a brand new evil themed wizard's tower, which is basically just a snake wrapped around one of these stone pillars that already kind of existed here. But inside of the snake is where the real magic happens, and if we take this elevator here, we end up in... I'm kind of stuck inside of here. I don't think I've ever seen that happen before. 1 second. Oh, right. I forgot to get rid of the elevator in the middle of this area here. Anyway, so this is the Forbidden Zone. This is where we've been working on our Forbidden and Arcanist stuff. So in the previous episode, we built up a tier 1 forge, and we went through and figured out and collected all of the various different resources that we need to actually use the Hephaestus forge. I also set up a little automation for our X-petrified orbs, and we have quite a few of these now. Apparently they only stack to 16. And then we also have our Klebano, I believe this is called, and this is how we actually produce obsidian steel. And by the way, there is actually a spawner that we have built up above. It is a piglin brute spawner, and it will produce a ton of piglins because we went through and completely upgraded that spawner. And I even had to make a brand new sword to actually be able to deal with all of these guys. And if I kill enemies with this sword, we actually get these corrupt lost souls. And when we kill those, we actually get corrupt souls. So in between episodes, I have been pretty busy working on the hotel. As you can see, it finally has a few more floors to it. So to actually build these, what I did was I built the first floor, and I just built the walls up using a building gadget. And then when I was satisfied with how everything looked, I used the copy paste gadget and copied the first floor here and just pasted it up above. And this tool can actually be linked to your AE system, so it can automatically pull items from that. And that made building this thing so much easier. So now if we go ahead and take the elevators, we can see that there is actually some stuff built here. I've just laid out a few separate rooms up here. And these are supposed to be like hotel rooms, but this is kind of where I want to start working on some smaller mods that probably don't need their own building, but definitely require a little bit of space. So in the previous episode, I did also talk about the All the Mods star, and we kind of got started with working towards the Philosopher's Fuel. So to craft this, we're going to need quite a few different items. We have the smelter prism now, and we can get a blaze burner pretty easily. We already used the create mod at the very beginning of the series. But to craft this, we are also going to need to get into the extreme reactors mod. We're going to need to make a pretty end tier furnace with the ender generator. We'll also need to get into evil craft pretty soon. But this also does require the mystical agriculture mod with the Awakened Supremium ingot block, as well as the Insanium coal block. Both of these are pretty end-tier items inside of Mystical Agriculture. And Mystical Agriculture is a pretty similar mod to Productive Bees, in that you can actually produce a ton of resources from it. I do think, though, that Mystical Agriculture can be a little bit better in certain aspects, because you actually get these essences from Mystical Agriculture, and these can actually be used to create different items. For example, the wood essence. You can make pretty much any sapling that you want, any type of wood, so you don't need to set up a specific setup for birch logs, for example. So I think in today's episode, I want to get started with the Mystical Agriculture mod and start working towards creating Supremium Essence. And so today I want to show you a few tips and tricks that can actually help you progress through Mystical Agriculture just a little bit faster. So go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a ton and lets me know that you guys are interested in these videos. If you want to go one step further, why not consider becoming a channel member? It's the best way to support me directly, and you get access to all of these videos early. So Mystical Agriculture is a mod all about generating these essences, which can then be turned into resources. So to get started with this mod, we're going to need Prosperity Shards and Inferium. Prosperity Shards are used to actually create these seed bases, which are then used to actually convert into the specific sort of seeds that you want. So to actually create our Prosperity Seeds, we're going to need to craft an Infusion Altar. It's a pretty simple recipe, just requiring specifically red wool. Here we go, and that should give us the Infusion Altar. We're also going to need 8 of these infusion pedestals, which also require the red wool. So we can go ahead and place down our infusion altar. I think that's a pretty good place for it. And it'll actually show us where each of these pedestals need to go. So we'll just place these down around the infusion altar, and that is now a functional infusion altar. For this though, we are going to need a redstone signal down below it. And I think I'll just use a block of redstone for this. There we go. And that will just keep it active at all times. So I think I'll go ahead and set up a recipe for our seed base, although I'm out of patterns. There we go. And I think I'll request about 100 of these. Unfortunately, we're low on seeds, but that can actually be remedied with this mod as well. Let's try 64. I actually have a wheat farm down here that I basically haven't used since I built it. So I'll just grab all of the seeds out of here. And now we should be able to craft all of these. So we'll do 100 of those. So now we can actually craft Inferium seeds. Now, one of the quests that I just completed actually gave me those, but all it is wheat seeds and Inferium essence mixed together. You can get Inferium just by mining underground. I have quite a lot of it, I think. Yeah, not too bad. So I'll probably just stick with the couple that we have at the moment. It's also probably important to note that we are going to need millions of Inferium in the end. So next, I just want to actually craft Inferium farmland. This will speed up the growth of our crops just a little bit. But probably the biggest part of the growth process is actually going to be using AE2. We can actually craft the growth accelerator, which basically applies random ticks to the plant and makes it grow so much faster. And these guys are pretty easy to craft, but I will go ahead and add them to our crafting network. Just like that. I'm trying to make sure that I'm adding pretty much every single item to our auto crafting system. I'm going to craft 4 of these right now. And we'll also probably want to use the crystal resonance generators. These basically just passively provide energy. It looks like they can produce 20 AE per tick. I think I want to say that's 40 FE per tick. But they don't require any sort of fuel, so they are definitely a very good option for this. Alternatively, we could just put some gates on them, but that would be using 4 separate gates for this. And I don't really want to use that many. So we can just craft this, add it to the system, and we'll get 4 more of those going. So I think to set these up, we're just going to place a few blocks down on the ground. We'll place the farmland wherever that just went. Oops, I think it went into my system. We'll place the farmland down here next to the growth accelerators. These will actually provide random ticks to the seed in the center. This will be a 4 times acceleration, so this will grow pretty quickly. And then we just want to place these resonators on top. And if you watch the growth at the top, it should go pretty quickly now. Usually this would grow about the rate of wheat, so it would take quite a while, but this is already fully grown now. And in this mod pack, there are a few different methods that we can use to actually automatically harvest our crops. The first is the harvester from Mystical Agriculture. Basically, you place it down, and as you sort of upgrade it, it actually unlocks a bigger area. Unfortunately, I feel like it's a little bit harder to actually use. I think the best method, though, is actually using the harvester pylon from the pylons mod. It basically just harvests in an area as well, but it's a little bit more customizable, and it just requires a little bit of quartz. And if I remember correctly, it doesn't require any power, whereas the Mystical Agriculture Harvester does require power. But we are going to need a hoe for it. Although it does say here that it can actually be configured to require power instead of using the durability on your hoe. So I think I'll just place this down here. We're also going to need a inventory on the top. I think I'm just going to use our ender chest. This is configured to automatically be inputted into our system. So we can use the Mystical Agriculture hose inside of the harvester. I can't remember if the Inferium hoe has a durability or not, but I kind of just want to test it out and see. So we can craft these Inferium gemstones. Let's see, we're going to need some Inferium ingots. This, by the way, is using a lot of prosperity shards. These are a little bit harder to obtain. There's no seed specifically for these. But we can craft it just like that, and it looks like it does actually have a durability. That's alright though. Once we get into the higher tiers, I know for sure. I think the Supremium version doesn't have a durability. So it looks like it is working now. And we should begin to see essence actually come into the system. It looks like it just ticked up there. And let's see if we can see it again, just to make sure that it's actually working. And there we go, it just ticked up. All right, so it is working perfectly fine now. So this harvester is actually mining in a 3x3 area around it. And if we open up the interface, we can actually change how big we want it up to a 9x9. So the next step is to craft an infusion crystal. I guess I got one from a quest already, but these are pretty simple to craft. We're just going to need a diamond, 4 prosperity shards, and 4 inferium. So if we combine the infusion crystal with 4 inferium essence, that's how we get Prudentium. Prudentium is the next tier of essence in Mystical Agriculture, and it'll actually allow us to craft a little bit more advanced seeds. Above that is Tertium, and above that is Imperium. And you might notice that each of these essences require the previous tier of essence, and it requires 4 of them, so it can definitely start to escalate pretty quickly. So I definitely recommend setting up a pattern for this. Also, allowing substitutions allows the infusion crystal in the center to basically use any infusion crystal. And Supremium is technically the highest tier in Mystical Agriculture, but we also have the Insanium essence as well from the Mystical Agreditions mod, which basically adds another higher tier onto it. So to craft a single Supremium essence, it actually requires 256 Inferium essence, which is definitely why I mentioned at the beginning of this episode that we're probably going to need millions of Inferium. But we can now go through and claim our rewards from these quests. And apparently Supremium, oh right, I didn't actually craft that. See how long that'll actually take us. And that wasn't too bad overall, but that was only crafting a single Supremium essence, and it took about 30 seconds. But that should actually allow us to claim the reward from that. And Supremium allows us to basically craft a bunch of the higher tier seeds, namely the netherite seed. And I think just for the quest, I do actually want to go through and craft an Insanium essence. It's probably going to take a while though. And that basically only took a couple of minutes, really not too bad for Insanium. But that will actually allow us to unlock that quest. So I think probably the first thing that I want to do now is actually craft the Master Infusion Crystal, which does not have any durability. It's not going to be too bad either. It's just going to be, I believe that's 6 Supremium Essence. The Supremium Gemstone requires 2 Supremium Essence, so yeah, 6 in total. Alright, and I think that's everything that we need to craft the Master Infusion Crystal. There we go, nice. So this one actually has unlimited uses. And in fact, I actually had to craft a second infusion crystal. Hopefully it'll actually use these ones before it uses this one, just to get these ones out of the system. I might even just trash these, honestly. But there we go. Here is our quest from that. And I think I just want to replace the farmland that is beneath my seed with the Supremium farmland. That way it just grows a little bit faster. And we can actually also craft these growth accelerators from the Mystical Agriculture mod. These just go directly below the farmland. As far as I'm aware, they don't actually change depending on the tier. It's just the range that changes. So what you can do actually is have like 9 Inferium growth accelerators down, and then you go to the next tier up. You place 9 more of them, and then 9, 9, and 9 again. And that would just make them grow extremely quickly. But here we go. If we craft this, we actually get 3 from this. Unfortunately, I do have a room down below here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get away with using 3 of these. I should probably do all of this underground, actually. Here we go. Let's see how much faster that is now. It definitely seems a little bit faster, at least. Yeah, that's not too bad. I think that's definitely a little bit faster. What we could also do is place another one of these over here, but I'm sort of worried about the durability on our hoe. It's already down to 1895 out of 2000, and that's definitely not going to last forever. But what will last forever is a Supremium hoe. Whoops, that's the axe. And that's a scythe. There's a hoe. So we need to go through and basically craft each of the different tiers of hoes. We can actually use the Inferium hoe that we've already been using. And I'd also like to add different recipes for these gemstones and ingots as well, because these can be a little bit annoying to craft. We'll also want the Prosperity gemstone and the Prosperity ingot. And I think that's all of the recipes that we need for this. Now, hopefully I enabled substitutions for these. It looks like I did. So that should actually use my Inferium hoe for that. So let's see how much it's going to actually cost to craft the Supremium hoe. Let's just craft one, and it looks like it's missing a Prudentium hoe. Should have a recipe for that. That's kind of weird that it kind of skipped that over. Let's see if it'll craft now. Still says that it's missing that. Alright, now it should be able to actually automatically craft that. I'm not entirely sure why it wasn't working with the partially broken one that we already had, so I just had it make a brand new one. I think that should be alright. It's just a little bit more materials. But yeah, for this, we are going to need about 2,000 Inferium, by the way. Alright, and there's our Supremium hoe completed now. Nice. So while I was waiting for that to craft, I actually went through and upgraded our farm here a little bit. Although I'm realizing that this actually needs to be 5x5 now, and that should harvest that one. Nice. So we can actually replace this Prudentium hoe that we were using with the Supremium one now, and this one is in fact unbreakable. So the whole reason that we got into Mystical Agriculture is to craft Awakened Supremium ingot blocks. But how do we actually get Awakened Supremium? For this, we're going to need a couple of things. First off, we're going to need to craft an Awakening Altar, as well as the Awakening Pedestals and Essence Vessels. So we're going to need the Awakening Altar, which is just crafted with Soulstone, orange wool specifically, and 2 gold ingots. And I think we're also going to need 4 Awakening Pedestals. And we're also going to need 4 Essence Vessels as well. These just require glass. So we can place down our Awakening Altar and grab our pedestals. These go on the straight sides like that, and the essence vessels go in the corners. And we're also going to need this cognizant dust. I think that's how you pronounce that. It's dropped by the Wither and the Ender Dragon when killed by an essence weapon enchanted with mystical enlightenment. So I think I'll just make a brand new Supremium sword. I just went through and set up some recipes for this, so we're going to need almost 3,000 more essence. We're starting to run pretty low on it. Hopefully our system can keep up pretty well with it, though. I was also thinking about using the diamond sword that we created last episode with these different enchantments on it already. However, I don't think there's a way that we can change or remove any enchantments as of right now without getting into industrial foregoing. I think what we could do though is once we get the enchantment that we need on the Supremium sword, we could actually just combine it with our diamond sword after we upgrade it. Although that's going to be a lot of essence, but I think it might be worth it. So as far as I can tell, you can't actually get this enchantment at a regular enchanting table. What we're going to need to do is actually invest in experience essence. This isn't going to be too bad to actually craft, but we are going to need Imperium essence and these experience capsules. Now, these are just made with solium ingots and soul glass, which really aren't too bad to craft individually. So now that we have our experience capsules, what we can do is actually just right click these and they will actually sap the XP out of your character. And I believe if you actually kill a mob and you have it inside of your hand or your offhand, it'll actually put the experience inside of the capsule instead of your player character. So now that I have everything gathered up, we can go ahead and place these inside of our infusion pedestals. We'll get the Imperium on the edges there. I think that's the right order. If we go ahead and right click that, yep, it will begin to actually produce our experience seeds. And the experience essence that is actually produced from the seeds is used in the enchanter from Mystical Agriculture, which can actually be used to produce specific enchantments that you sort of designate. So for example, if we put some blaze rods and experience essence inside of the enchanter, we could actually get the fire aspect enchantment. But what we're looking for is the mystical enlightenment enchantment, and this is actually going to require a supremium. It looks like for the highest tier we're going to need 15, and we're going to need 320 experience essence. All right, so I'm currently just waiting for some things to process right now. And this wandering trader just appeared here with a pretty good sword. It has sharpness 5, looting 4, unbreaking 5, mending, and capturing 5. Yeah, I'll definitely take that. We might actually combine that with our existing sword and possibly get some of these enchantments transferred over to a Supremium sword as well. All right, and after AFKing for just a little while, we have our Supremium essence. I think it was 320 that we required of the experience essence, and our Inferium sword, and that will give us our Mystical Enlightenment 5 enchantment. So now I just kind of want to see what we can do when we combine these two swords. So we have the Captive Dreams is the one that we already had. So we can go ahead and add, I believe that's Sweeping Edge 3, Frostbite 3, Tombstone Soulbound, Soul Looting 3, and then I think it upgrades it to, yeah, Capturing 5. Actually, this one didn't have Capturing on it. I think that's just my Paxel. So we can go ahead and craft that, and then I'll get some of these components going, and we can actually go ahead and upgrade that into an Inferium sword. And now I think I'm just going to combine these two so that we get mystical, let me just double check that it goes onto there. Yep, there it is, Mystical Enlightenment 5. This is going to cost 36 levels, but it is totally worth it. So now I think I'm just going to go through and upgrade this thing. Just make sure we're using the right one. I think I'm going to get it all the way up to Supremium. I might as well. And this should be our last upgrade. This is tier 5. This is Supremium. It's going to have 27 attack damage on it. Not too bad. And so now we just need to kill a few withers. We could also go and fight the Nether Dragon, but I think this is just going to be a little bit easier. Oops. And let's see how much damage this actually does. Wow, not bad. I guess it does about 20. Yeah, 20 per hit. Really not too bad. And we have 8 cognizant dust from that. Nice. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that a few more times and get some more dust. Alright, and I went ahead and killed 8 withers, and we got 64 cognizant dust from that. So the next step for me is to actually go through and craft each of the different basic essences. These are earth, water, fire, and air. These shouldn't be too bad to get. For some of these, all we're going to need to do is just combine a few different ingredients. For example, to get the air agglomeration, I think that's how you say it, you just need a glass bottle, gravel, dirt, and clay. And we combine 4 of those with 4 inferium essence with the seed base in the center, and that should give us our air seed. And it looks like I already have a water seed from probably a quest, but you just get those with water agglomeration. You just use a water bucket in that recipe instead of a bottle. And we're gonna need lava for the fire seeds. And we just make this with lava buckets instead of the water bucket or the air bottle. And the recipe for the fire seeds is pretty much the exact same as the air seeds were. And the earth agglomeration is a little bit more complicated. We just need short grass here. You can get that by shearing any sort of grass. So here we go. This should be the last one that we need for this. And now we just need to let these grow for a little while. So I'll go ahead and add some growth accelerators for these just to speed this process up a little bit. So we just need 10 of each of these essences, which we now have. And I believe the last step is actually going to be to craft a supremium block, which I already prepared by auto crafting some supremium essence. So now we have 1 block of supremium. So we place our essences inside of the essence vessels, like so. Then we place our cognizant dust on the awakening pedestals. And we get the block of supremium in the center. This does need a redstone signal as well. So let me get that down below here. And that'll begin to craft our awakened supremium. Nice, there we go. So for the quest to actually complete, we need to break it down into the essences. And that should give us that now. There we go. And from our quests, we actually got an extra supremium block as well as an extra awakened supremium essence. Not too bad. And for our philosopher's fuel, we actually need awakened supremium ingot blocks, which means that we need to craft awakened supremium ingots, which means that we need 2 awakened supremium essence per block or per ingot. So we're actually going to need to run this ritual one more time in order to get what we need for the philosopher's fuel. And there we go, our second awakened supremium block. Nice. So I'll go ahead and get an auto crafting recipe set up for this. We needed the awakened supremium ingots, and we need 9 of these. Here we go. That shouldn't take too long. It's just a regular crafting recipe, but we can combine those down into our awakened supremium ingot block. Nice. So now I sort of want an area where I can actually keep track of where I'm sort of at in the progress of building up the All the Mods star. So I think I'm going to add a few recipe areas here. This is basically just going to be the philosopher's fuel right here. So we have the smelter prism right there. I think it was the awakened supremium ingot block in the bottom left there. We'll need a blaze burner, which we can just get by right-clicking a blaze spawner with a, what are these things called? A blaze burner. So the blaze burner, my keyboard decided to stop listening to me. Whoops. That should go there. We'll need a dark tank filled with Eclipse Ember Fuel, which I have no idea how to get yet, as I have not done EvilCraft yet. So we'll have to get that probably next episode. Let's see. We could probably get the rainbow coal. Does it have to be an eternal? No. So there is a way to get this. I think we just craft the rainbow generator and then we decraft it, I think. So we just need to craft the rainbow furnace, which requires these rainbow platings. So I'll just have to go through and just craft all of these different furnaces. And then we'll also need a rainbow core, which is just a bunch of different stained glass and 2 netherite furnaces. And I think probably the easiest way of doing this, of course, is to just craft some recipes for everything. That's always the best method in this mod pack, I feel. Alright, I think I have all of the recipes figured out here. So once we get all of these inside, looks like I'm missing the rainbow core, actually. See if I can get that in as well. Shouldn't be too bad. Here we go. Get that next to these ones, and I should be able to craft the rainbow furnace now. Looks like we have everything for it. Oh, we don't have everything for this, though. So I'll probably need to add recipes for the stained glasses as well, which is kind of annoying. Alright, and now I have everything all set up for the rainbow furnace. I went ahead and added all of the different stained glass crafting recipes to our auto crafting system. Just in case we need them in the future, we probably won't, but it's definitely a nice to have. So that one shouldn't take too long. Here we go. And what we do with this actually is we explode it. So we grab that, we need a redstone. And hopefully this works. I think you place it and explode it like this. I think that's how that goes. Hopefully that'll work. No. No. I think we place it on the ground, which makes me nervous. Oops. So TNT again, once again. Throw it down. Hopefully, oh gosh, no, not my Paxel. Did that work? I think it blew it up. Let me just... Yeah, that blew it up. What the heck? Is that not how you're supposed to do it? Okay, so I think I know why it didn't explode. And that's because we're actually in claimed chunks right now. So I just went ahead and auto-crafted another one. So we just gotta leave town for a bit. I think over here should be fine. So yeah, you do place the block down. And hopefully we have some more TNT. We have one more. Last chance. Let's go for it. There it is. Nice. There is our rainbow coal. So rainbow coal is actually pretty nifty in that it is basically unbreakable fuel. If you place this in a furnace, it will just keep burning forever. But we're just going to be using it to craft our philosopher's fuel. So that's 4 out of 9 parts for the philosopher's fuel. Nice. We'll also need insanium coal for this, which means we're going to need 18 insanium, which means we're going to need about, looks like 16,000, almost 17,000 inferium, which we're nowhere near right now. But I do think that that's all the time we're going to have for today's episode. So thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Peace.